This would be the bibliographic record. What I've put the MARC content designation in black here. In an internal database, those content designators may or may not be exactly the same as they are in the MARC exchange format, but I've just used that to show where these fields would have come from in MARC if you were importing the record, or how they would be exported out, how they'd be tagged if the data was being exported out in MARC. What we have in this record, basically, the bibliographic record focuses on those RDA data elements that reflect the FRBR attributes of the manifestation. So we have data, and what I've put in here in blue, these are actually the RDA element names that would end up in those tags. So we have in the 245 subfield A the title proper, subfield C carrying the statement of responsibility relating to the title proper, 250A with the designation of edition. These names may seem slightly familiar because a lot of them, as I said, one of our target compatibilities was with ISBD, and a lot of the naming of elements in RDA follows either ISBD or FRBR, depending on which one seemed to fit the data structure best. So you have those fields, the 245, 250, 260, 300, 338. 338 is a new field that Marg will be talking about later that was designed specifically to carry a new RDA element called carrier type. But this record, bibliographic record, also contains data elements from the RDA set that are associated, that reflect attributes of both the work and the expression. So in the 240 subfield A, you have preferred title for the work, which is obviously an attribute of the work, not of the manifestation. And you also see I have a 500 subfield A, the all-purpose field, with an RDA element called nature of the content, which again is an attribute defined in RDA as an attribute of the work. And we have one little subfield there, subfield L in the 240 field, language of expression, which again obviously is an attribute of the expression. So that's how those RDA elements relate to the entities in the FRBR model. But in here, in this record, bibliographic record, although it's centered on manifestation, actually covers elements, attributes of other entities. The relationships in a bibliographic record, the RDA relationships, as you see here, are represented through access points. So we have both the 100 field which is essentially a relationship to the creator of the work that's embodied in this manifestation. We have a 700 field. The first of those is another creator involved with the work, but a collaborator, and therefore gets relegated to an added entry rather than a main entry under AACR2 rules. In RDA, creators are creators, and we don't make that distinction at that level between one collaborator and the other, but there is a distinction made when we create an access point to represent the work, so that one of, again, similar to main entry, that one gets elevated, as it were. There's also another 700, therefore, in this case, as we'll see later, is actually a person responsible for the expression at the expression level rather than at the work level. And there's also an added entry for a related work, and that's basically how those relationships get reflected if you were encoding this in a MARC 21 format. The links out from those, that's odd, moved over. The links out from from that bibliographic record go, as I say, one of the links led to the name title authority record that represents the work. And that record in itself contains also data relating to the person, one of the persons responsible for that work in the 100A and D subfields. And then the preferred title for the work itself in the subfield T. And again, although we sometimes think of name title authority records as sort of pseudo work records, this one you see also contains an element relating to the expression, so you're actually down one level in the FRBR structure. It's a combined, pre-coordinated work expression record in effect. And again, from the 530 in the authority record this time, is the relationship to a related work. Finally, just in this scenario, we have the name authority record, and this was the one for the collaborator. And again, this is pretty standard. This would be derived directly from a name authority record in MARC, and the RDA elements are all sort of one for one. Slight differences in the way in variant names are handled in MARC there, and in AACR2 they were treated as reference in AACR2 as references, and in MARC as reference tracing fields. In RDA they're actually just a variant name. We don't make any assumptions about how that will be used or displayed in a catalog or database. So if we move from there then to the second landscape, again, don't even try to read that. It could be harmful to your health. We have the same data, the same record, same data, again, in this case, imported in a MARC encoding format, but stored in a database that mirrors the structure of FRBR and FRAD models. So we have up in the top right, top left corner there, a manifestation record. Hanging down again from that, down in the bottom left, is an item record, which parallels the holdings record in MARC, and I'm not going to look at that in any more detail. In the center, we have a work record, which represents the work embodied in this manifestation. And immediately below that, and linked to it, is an expression record, which is the specific expression of the work that's embodied in this manifestation. And then over on the right side of this diagram, I have a number of what I've labeled here as registration records, just to differentiate them from authority records in the conventional sense. But these are the registration records for the three persons that were represented in the 100 and 700 fields in the MARC record. So again, I'm going to zero in on those four records just one by one to take a closer look at how, in this case, the RDA data is relating to the FRBR and FRAD models. Again, I've shown the MARC coding from the source record, assuming that this record has been imported from a MARC exchange record. I've shown that, but it's unlikely that they would actually be tagged that way in this database structure, but I just wanted it easier to see where these came from in the source record.